It's hard enough to consider restarting something, doing it all over again, trying to do it differently. Yet, really, the most difficult thing becomes how do you take that first step? And what is the first step once you've chosen to restart? We'll talk about Renegade Restart, the first step, and more on this episode of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. That was a little subdued.
Was it? I'm trying to save my energy. We have a big announcement at noon Eastern time, and I'm saving my energy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. That's good to know. So then we'll just kick it right off. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where we have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic is the Renegade Restart. And today, as I mentioned before, we'll start with the first step. I really think that the first step is deciding that you're going to restart. And
wait,
as I mentioned,
hold on. What happened to celebrations?
Well, we're getting there.
Oh, you sounded like you were going into the meat.
No, not yet.
I wanted to eat the roll.
Okay, you got time to eat the roll. Plus, you got to use your fingers, to count out something in just a minute. So.
Right. Okay.
So I think, as I mentioned, the first step is deciding it. Then the next one is is the hardest to figure out many times. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But when we have that conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share around it, please feel free to share them in the comments, because we know that it'll add value to what we have to share. And we'll make sure that as long as they're appropriate, we will share them with everyone else. It's easy to do. Just put it in the comments of wherever you happen to be following us, whether that is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
Or LinkedIn Live. Yes, indeed. And then at the end of our conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you maybe today, or maybe somewhere else down the line when you're stuck and unsure how to take the next step along your own unique pathway to success. And of course, if you have a one thing that you'd like to share, we welcome you to do that as well, because we know that someone out there might be looking for the value that you have to share. So before we dive into our topic, though, we start each morning, as Bob preluded earlier, with celebrations. So Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating. We got that big announcement at noon. We've been working on this for conservatively 6-7 years. And finally, we're going to launch something that you and I think is going to make a huge difference in how people build relationships.
Excellent. It's a good thing to celebrate. I will celebrate that as well. And I'm also going to celebrate the fact that it's kind of a restart to the Renegade Success Network. That we have put some stuff out there. We started it, and this is based on 2.5 years of figuring it out, trying to figure it out. And so we're taking the knowledge, experience, and perspective that we have shared, and we're going to offer what's real for us at this point and what we think would be beneficial to others. So I am also celebrating that opportunity to share that value with people later today.
Nice. So let's get right to it. We've been talking all week about the Renegade Restart and what that looks like. And it really, just to capture the essence of it, it's when you choose to change courses and you've gone down a pathway and you've realized that pathway isn't the pathway that you want to be on for a variety of reasons. You come back and you go down a new pathway. Now, I'm going to argue, Tom, and this is probably going to throw our whole week's programming right out the window. But as you were talking this morning, in the introduction, it occurred to me that it's not really a restart because we have all the information that we've learned along the way. So what you just described about our Renegade Success Network, we're not restarting it. We're not at square one. We're at about square 27. We learned some things, we did some things, we tried some things. They worked in certain ways, some worked in ways we didn't expect. We've enhanced some of the things that worked well. Some of the things we didn't think worked so well, we've moved to the side. And so we're not at square one. It's not like, oh, throw that paper with all the directions away. Let's start from scratch. It's more like, okay, I see the tree. Yep, I'm heading east. I'm still heading east. Okay, that's good. The place I'm going to is northeast. So I need to deviate a little bit and go north to get to that location. What do you think about that?
I would agree. And I think that's one of the things that you do when you restart is sometimes the restart, as you shared, is a slight adjustment. And that's still a restart, right? Because you were going this way and you're a slight adjustment. And other times the restart is a significant adjustment. It is a very different approach. And I think that that's the beauty of the restart is you can choose to do one or the other based on, if you gain the knowledge, experience, and perspective that the direction we were heading, we learned a lot from. And one of the things we learned was we're not getting closer to where we wanted to be. So we need a restart, and we need to do something completely different. The benefit is with a restart is that you are bringing your knowledge, experience, and perspective from whatever else it was to that. And now you are going to start again or restart wherever you're at. Does that make sense?
It does. And there's some good data that the average entrepreneur tries 4 to 9 things before they find the one that actually works for them. 4 to 9 things. So they'll try a product a certain way. They'll try it a different way. They'll go to the marketplace with a marketing pitch, and they'll change it 4 to 9 times on average. Now, yes, there are the ones that go out the first time and it's gold. And then there are the ones that go out 13 times, 26 times, and they find their way. And each time, I think, having worked with some entrepreneurs, each time they go out to the marketplace with something a little different, they learn a lot about what their customer, about the product. In one case, it was a supply chain thing that this client of mine, they had to figure out the supply chain. The supply chain, and this was before COVID, was the limiting factor. They had a great marketing pitch. They had a great customer base. Everything was working really well for them, except for the fact that they couldn't create the product. And so they had to go back and retool, literally, the product to make it market friendly, and that changed pricing and all that. And that's what we have. And even if you're doing something like what we do, which is a service, you've got to retool it. You've got to figure out what people want. You've got to understand exactly what they're looking for, when they're looking for it, what kind of price point. It's more complicated. And even if you're leading a team, figuring out how to motivate that team, figuring out what that team can achieve in a week that pushes them a little bit, but doesn't push them too far, figuring out how to celebrate successes with your team, figuring out how to build that camaraderie among a team. That takes trial and error. There's no way that you can just magically, here's a team, we're going to be perfect and we're going to execute and everything's going to be great. So I think that Renegade restart applies across the board.
Well, and I think you just have highlighted why the first step is so challenging sometimes. Is look at all the things you just talked about that you might need to do or could do based on what you have gained. So, I think that it can be challenging to figure out what the first step is. And I think that as I think about it, or I was thinking about it before as well, and based on what some of the things you said, I think the real first step, if you want to talk that, is deciding that you are going to change, that you are going to do something a little bit differently and consider it a restart. Like, I think that is the first step. Although I'm going to say that, let's say that's a given, and it's kind of it's that, to me, that's the last step in some ways of the last restart. So
wait, my head's spinning. Try that again, Tom. I bet.
So we're going along, right? And we're gaining knowledge and we're learning things and we're doing whatever. And at some point we have decided that it isn't going the direction that we want and we need to make a modification. That to me is okay, we need a restart.
So
whatever
that's
that
the
might
last
be.
step on the prior pathway.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you.
So the first step, I think, and I would offer, as you are considering, so you've decided you're going to restart and think about it, is I think you also have to reset what the destination is. What is the end goal? Because it now might be different than before. And likely, if you're finding that sometimes maybe the actions that you've taken have led you to say, this was one of my 4 to 9 considerations, iterations,
Attempts. Yeah.
as I move forward. And so I just want to be sure that the end destination that I'm trying to achieve is still the same thing. Sometimes it will, and I think other times it might not. It might be, look, hey, I'm trying to get to somewhere a little bit different now because what I have learned is that really wasn't where I wanted to go. I thought it was where I wanted to go. It was the best decision I could make at the time, let's say at the start of the year. But now I've learned a whole lot of things. And now it is maybe something else has become a new priority. And so I need to consider is how is that going to impact the steps that I take to achieve the goal that I desire?
Right. Maybe you lost a key staff person who you were anticipating based on their experience could help you achieve some goals. And now that person's gone and you're short-staffed, you're hiring someone new, and that would require a restart. And that's perfectly normal.
And it would change what the end destination might look like.
Correct.
And how you might do it. So I think so as I think about it, that's to me one of the first steps is really reframing what does success look like, so that as you're starting to consider what are the actions now that I need to take, I'm really clear on what that end destination is. What do you think about that as the first step?
I like that, but I'm struggling with the idea of a first step because I think any step gets us closer to what we're accomplishing. So the way we've been talking about first step this morning, it makes me feel like I've got to really put a lot of effort into that first step. Like you and I are doing this presentation at noon today, and we haven't done a lot of those. We're doing them in a new place. And I'm thinking, oh, the first step, I got to do this and this. No, I just need to take a step. And a lot of times I think that first step is based on what instinct and things that we've done in the past.
Sure.
And so it's not, I want to make sure we're not magnifying its importance and its oomph, because if we do, I think that scares people. You know, they're already restarting, which means I'm admitting to myself that I didn't have the perfect pathway going forward. So now I've got to try some new things. I know you don't like the word perfect, and I get that. But
sounds like a judgment as well.
But I think we're prone to that. Oh, I
Sure.
went down this trail. I thought it was going to get me to the top of the hill. It was a dead end. Now I've got to go back a little bit and try a different trail. What I would tell you is when you get back to that point where you're trying a different trail, better to choose another trail that may not be the perfect trail than to stand there and go, oh, I got to take a first step. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I think one of the things I found in coaching people is just getting them to take an action often leads to the next action in a very non-threatening way that, oh, I don't know what to do. I've got to take the first step. Bob, what's my first step? You were talking about the first step today. Hey, what's a step? Give me 5 steps you could take right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Which one are you going to do? Oh, well, this one's the easiest. Great. Do it. And then they start to fall into place, just like walking on a trail. Once you start walking down that trail, you go.
Yes. And if they haven't considered where they want to get to,
right?
Isn't it more challenging than to figure out, okay, what are possible steps that I could take? I 100% agree that you want them to take their first step should be fairly simple, fairly easy to achieve. And then sometimes in my mind is like, I know, especially at this time of year when you're thinking about a restart, you already had some goals and objectives, some things that you were trying to accomplish for yourself or your organization or your business. And you've now reached a point where you have to kind of consider is it still possible to do those? Or do I need to reset what my destination looks like? If it's not, what is a new thing that I'm going to do to still help our organization achieve our overall goals, or myself to achieve whatever the goals I have? Because at some point it needs to be something. You know, I think about it in the fundraising world is we've traveled down a path, and some of the things that we thought were going to get results didn't get the results we expected. And so but we learned a lot about that. And so now, how do we modify that, knowing that we are still trying to achieve our goal? Or we had a goal that was $1 million to raise, and we sort of expected that somebody was going to give us a $100,000 grant. Well, that didn't come in. So now we have to consider, are we still trying to get to $100,000, or have we decided that based on our knowledge, experience, and perspective, we don't believe we have the pool to get to there of prospects. So now we're going to go, now the goal is 900,000, because we've already realized that one of the things we thought isn't going to happen. Now we might still get to 100,000. And yet, based on what we know, it might be helpful to let our supervisors know, hey, look, this is what's going on. And so now we're going to still try to get to 100. And we know that there's going to be some challenges to that. And so we're trying to let you know that our new target is 900, so they can then figure out how to make adjustments with other things, with the expense side of the organization. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely makes sense.
And I think that's why
it's
a fairly easier step, because you've learned a lot. And you'd be, okay, based on what I've learned, now what's my new destination? Okay, I can kind of think about that. Even if I think about, well, you know, my thought was that my sales were going to be $50,000 a quarter. The summer was a little slower than I thought. And so I only did 25. So now what do I need to completely change? Is my goal still to get to that to get to a total of 4 quarters of $50,000 and 200,000, or do I need to modify it? And I think that first step will allow you to then go back and say, okay, I still have got a million options of how I can do it. All right, let's throw out all the ones you could do, and what's the one you could complete? So that becomes the second step. Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It does. It does. I like your idea of recalibrating or before you figure out that first step. And I think I'm thinking of some situations of mine where I didn't do that. You know, there was a situation where I had a big client and the client disappeared a couple of years ago, and I didn't adjust my spending for the year based on that. I just didn't. And so I bought some things I probably could have been better not to buy. And that started a slippery slope of things that I was able to correct. But if I had seen that big thing, okay, this is going to require an adjustment. This means I need to put off buying a new computer, or this means I need to increase my sales efforts and those things. And I think sometimes we don't think about it as broadly as you're suggesting, because we have these big goals and it's like, well, I'm going to make $1 million this year. And you get to where we are right now, the last day of August. Wow, it is the last day of August. And you're going, okay, I've only made $180,000. $820,000 in 4 months. Possible, I guess, but not super easy. And so yes, you'd have to recalibrate. And I think the other thing that I like about what you said, and I think I said too, is once you do that recalibration, that first step afterwards seems pretty logical.
Or at least you can throw out 4 or 5 that are heading you in the same direction. You know, like if you didn't do that,
right,
your steps might be very similar to the ones you were taking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's the first part of the next quarter, or almost the quarter, or it's the end of the third quarter. I'm going to buy whatever the supplies I need for the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Which might lead you down the path of, I'm still spending like I'm expecting that I'm going to generate this revenue, even though I'm not. And I think, you know, one of the things that I think it helps with is I think it creates less judgment because you're taking, because what we decide, let's say at the beginning of the year, of what our goals are going to be that we want to achieve by the end of the year, there's a lot of things that are going to happen that we can't control from now or from then until now. And so all we're doing is saying, hey, we're a little bit closer. Let's take a look at what's real and then decide, okay, some things have to change. What are we going to do differently? And I think that it's even if you are at where you want to be, like let's say you're at, your goal is $1 million and you're already at 750. I think one of the things is how do you ensure that you don't get lackadaisical? It's like, oh, everything we've been doing is going great. The plan has worked exactly as we thought. We're right where we want to be. So let's just keep going. Everything's going to be fantastic. And those are the times I think that you don't stop and take another look at the situation. Now gas prices are going down, so maybe that has an impact on the opportunity to maybe do more, or something else has changed. Even though you're where you want to be, there's something else that's changed that may have an impact on what's going to happen in the last quarter. That if you don't at least consider, it'll likely smack you in the face and you'll be like, oh yeah, we're not going to get to where we thought. If we had thought about it, considered what we knew was coming, we might have been better prepared when this happened and made some adjustments to say, this is something that could happen. We might want to consider some different steps to ensure that when those things that we can't control happen, we're able to still adjust to it. That makes sense.
It does. It does. It all makes sense. I think it's that time, Tom. Time for the one thing. So my one thing today is what you helped me understand, that we really need to recalibrate before we take that first step and figure out if what we were trying to achieve is what we're still trying to achieve, or is the knowledge, experience, and perspective that we've drawn through that other pathway integrated into the new vision, which would lead us to a new destination, if you will.
Mine's going to be similar. I think is that I think the first step is ensuring that we have some clarity around where it is we're going, because that will guide us to what our next steps could be, and ensure that, yes, we've chosen this restart, that we actually know where we're trying to go with the restart, rather than just let me get in my car and drive and hope that I get to where I thought I wanted to be. Even though my understanding is that there was a big flood and the area I was going to is all washed out and there's no place to stay and no reason to go there. I'm like, okay, that was my goal. I'm still going there.
Right.
The results might not be the same once I get there.
Probably not.
Probably not. All right, everyone. If you have one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. We'd love your thoughts and ideas. And actually, what do you think about continuing to make sure that you have clarity around where you are headed to hopefully help you in any restart that you have? Because in reality, we restart every day. We get up and situations have changed, things are different. And so we'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas around the first step when you restart. Maybe you think it's something else. Maybe you think the first step is truly deciding that you are going to change. Rather than it being the conclusion of the last, it's actually the start of the next. So please feel free to share that. And if you happen to be listening to the podcast, we're sorry. We know you can't comment anywhere or share your thoughts or ideas. So we would encourage you to come to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where you can share it there. We also now have a Renegade Success Network for Leaders group on LinkedIn. So if you are a LinkedIn person and would like to be a part of that, and you could have if that's your platform, and you don't really do a lot on Facebook, join us there, and you can continue the same conversations there. So
you can also connect your friends there, your LinkedIn friends. You could say, hey, I've got this group that you really should join. I think it would make a difference in your in how you build your business or your nonprofit or whatever you're up to.
Absolutely. So we look forward to seeing you in one of those two places. If not, we'll see you maybe at noon for our
maybe. Be
well,
optimistic, Tom.
well, I'm not sure. If not, we'll see you. If we don't see you at noon, we will see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegade in you. And part of being that renegade, join us at noon today, Eastern time. We are going to talk about something that will improve your renegadeness in a huge way.
Your renegadeness.
Renegadeness.
Interesting. All right, go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.